I feel sorry for him. Not because independence is a lonely place, not because of this lefty's apologetic commiseratory sorry you went to all the effort just to see the right routed, old boy. No, he aspires, really aspires. He takes back aspiration. He had all these ideas but ended up in the most useless job in politics, a member of the European Parliament. But he's clever. Gosh, he's independently clever. Politics needs something to fight against, and he was given the greatest opportunity for complaining about your boss ever. This anonymous, bureaucratic, peacekeeping organisation lording over all of Europe, making the idea of Germany, France and Britain ever having any fleeting considerations of settling their differences by sending their men off to slowly take pops of one another in fields, utterly unthinkable. It's like we basically lost to the other Nazis. I know, he thinks. I'll complain about them. He's smooth. God, he's smooth, whilst everyone else is a bit more of a broken slippery. His complaining gains momentum, and he thinks, hang on, nobody else is giving me the time of day. I'll give myself a leg up. He's a self-made man. He's a proper, privately educated, broken Britain, self-made man. His complaining about the EU gets so good, and his UKIP party flourishes with him as their leader. Finally, they're noticing me, he reflects with satisfaction. But rather than experts look at taking back control, the Conservatives leave the politics to the people. But it's so horrendously complicated, Nigel thinks. How are they to know what's what? Nevertheless, this is finally Nigel's moment to take the spotlight, and he isn't going to waste it. He'll get a camera in front of his face, even if it's being pelted with food. The referendum's been forced, the talking's done wonders for Nigel's political credit, and 52% of 72% of the registered voters, so 37% of the country, decide the fate of all the under-18s who couldn't, and said they agreed with Nigel and want us out of the EU. Bollocks, he must have thought. That's my whole MO up the Swanee. Just as my career was taking off, the rug's being pulled. I was going somewhere. I had momentum behind me. But being a real politician now, though still not an MP, he does the decent thing, the done thing. To save his career, he resigns from UKIP as soon as the result is confirmed. He's a leaver to the core. Now what? He must have thought, as he sat on the sideline watching the government flounder over what to do. Two more prime ministers of an elected party are sawn off in short order, and then Boris steals all the limelight. Life's so unfair. Not only that, but Boris actually triggers Article 50. I had hoped it would just be quietly forgotten about, he must have thought, and with that, cuts Nigel's one and only job as the thankless MEP. Double bollocks. So, Nigel's right back where he started. Except he's not even an MEP now. That backfired, didn't it? Now the country's on its own. All the political parties are in disarray. They used to be able to blame the EU. Now it's all on them. There's no bureaucracy to blame but their own. Nigel's not feeling popular amongst his friends. Of course the EU is making it difficult. Of course they'll try and screw us back. We started it. Surely that's not a pandemic on the horizon, is it? Oh, fuck. Everything's down to us now, Westminster bemoans. Then a light bulb goes off. There's a clause in his contract with the voters. Aha, he thinks. I never promised that this was the best government to sort it all out. It wasn't a guarantee everything would be better just by leaving the EU. It depends. He does get results. In Broken Britain, blimey does he get results. He doesn't need the EU to complain about anymore. He's got the gift of whoever is in government. They're the ones who didn't do Brexit the way he envisioned. Now you're talking, Nigel must have thought to himself. New party, new motive, same man. And immigrants too. They seem to play really well with Brexiteers, and some voters under 50 as well. I'll complain the government isn't getting that right either. Well done, Nige. Being a politician for how long just to realise in extra time it's profitable to complain about the competition, and not just about the boss. So, the Conservatives implode, forcing an election that Nigel's having to run a new party in just to look like he's still in the game. He dusts off the media spats over blatant racist in his party, and the results are in. He's got it. By Jove, he's still got it. He's taken back control of his life. He gets a seat in Parliament. Finally, he's made it to the big leagues. An MP at last. But hang on. Reform did better than expected. His party as a whole got 14% of the votes, which equated to 5 seats for his makeshift party. But there's 650 seats, isn't there? He should have 93 seats. Where did 5 come from? I told you we needed proportional representation, maybe the only quote that can both be attributed to myself or Nigel. But Nigel would carry on, what about socialists? Did they carry on counting when they should have stopped? Who stole the election from Big Nige? Is that a friend on the other side of the pond? The system, I've complained about it before, but now I've got fresh evidence to prove how unequal it is. It doesn't favour Nige, or left, or right. It favours only two-party politics. Any two parties, but only two. It's so unequal that even if shown to someone whose eyes see inequality in their own white male demographic, it'd be blaringly obvious. America's system is no better. Why do you think Trump is running with Republicans, the most famous of which is Progressive Lincoln, instead of creating his own independent party? It's because the game pushes itself towards just two parties. Maybe I'm being too harsh on the opportunistic bully, though. I bet Trump does care for all the Republicans, for all his female supporters. They have so much of Trump's respect, they could all be president too. And the men, and the black men. They're great. As long as they support him, and the Thai ladyboys, all the Mexicans in his audience, in his mind, there's probably no greater person, except himself or Putin. I bet even if you're woke and you vote Trump, he would support you for president, and you're right to grab pussy as well. But we don't grab cock. All presidents should be Trump from now on, and that's not what presidents do. They just grab pussy. Sorry, back to some restraint. The UK election in 2024 is the most unrepresentative in history. You may have heard that in the news. But what does it mean? Well, for poor old Nigel, though he may finally have a seat, he has every right to feel aggrieved, as do most small parties, because they can accrue lots of votes overall, but if they're spread out across lots of constituencies, then they'll equal very few wins. This may be engineered by a political strategy of drawing borders to manufacture results known as gerrymandering, but I'll leave that for another time. Let's start with people who actually voted. For a kickoff, 60% of the potential electorate even cast a vote. If that doesn't say political disenfranchisement, you'd have to be Russian to know better. But it's about those who do vote. It's about local seats. So, the best constituency for political consensus, the one where a party managed to win with the most of the potential electorate, was, drumroll, Westmoreland and Lonsdale. Nope, I don't know where those are either. The Lib Dems got 43% of all the electorate to support them there. Old Bexley and Sidcup did their best for total bums out of seats, with 79% showing face at the polls. Take that parliamentary 60%. Well, not so fast. Old Bexley and Sidcup may be the most engaged with politics, but it's not like they all totally agree there. The winners were Conservatives with only 38%, just 30% of the total electorate in the constituency that gave the best turnout. That's a majority, that's a seat, or, to look at it in a more accurate way, 70% of the electorate didn't vote for the party that won. 30% get to speak for the whole. Even asking if a constituency voted mostly left-leaning or mostly right, 32 seats are roughly split in half, whereas 9 are exactly split. Conservatives won 3 of those and Labour the others, leaving at least half of their voters pissed off that neither their first, second or third choice won anything at all. This is what's called the misrepresentation error. Ignoring the Speaker's seat, 562 constituencies have a misrepresentation error of 50% or over. The one with the lowest error is my original neck of the woods, Liverpool-Walton, with less than 30% error. In fact, 14 are what I'd call Scousland. Yes, I'm including West Lancs because they often have thicker Scouse accents than those who get on the train at Kirkdale. But the best 4 of the 92 seats representing the majority of their electorate are all in Liverpool too, including Bootle, Knowsley and West Derby. Which makes us really unusual. It's a level of harmony Parliament could only dream of. Guess who they voted for? Bear in mind that in the seats, the lowest amount of votes a person got was, again ignoring the Speaker, only 23%, or just 12% of the entire electorate in Dewsbury and Batley, to win them 100% control of it all. So what happens when you scale that up to Parliament? Well, Labour put on a good show of we're not Conservatives, which earned them, drumroll, 34% of the votes. And that's only 20% of the entire electorate. So, with a fifth of the country having voted for them, they got 3/5 of the House, which in practical terms gives them 5/5 of the control. So Labour gets much less than half the votes, but total power. Reform, meanwhile, ends up with just 1% of the House, despite getting more votes than Lib Dems, more than Greens, over 2/3 what Conservatives got, and just under half what Labour accrued. In fact, they should have 93 seats rather than the 5 they actually got. Don't get me wrong, Labour still won, but they gained 193 seats more than their votes would suggest, which is ridiculous when all but 2 other parties lost seats proportional to their votes, including Conservatives, who should have 32 more. The Reform loss is scandalous when compared with what would be my second choice party, the Lib Dems. The Lib Dems got less votes than Reform overall, but ended up quite well represented in the House. They got 12% of the votes and 11% of the House. That's pretty fucking close, but it's astonishing when compared to Reform's 5 seats to Liberals' whopping 72, despite 500,000 votes less. As a lefty, Green, this all seems very worrying, and I should hesitate to even whisper alternative voting based on some of these numbers. However, I can take solace that 86% of people didn't vote for Reform. Phew. And neither did 91% of the voting population overall, thank Christ. And as an agnostic, I can honestly say this time I am thanking Christ or whoever was responsible for all this reasonableness. Also, over 4 million more voted for left-leaning parties than right, based on the 5 main ones. But still, with the current system, the more left-wing parties there are, the more their votes are spread out across many, rather than turbocharging one, meaning small parties are likely to lose and disband, and we end up stuck with the two-party system, and a political party that can take charge when more than 66% of people didn't vote for them. How very comforting. Not only is there no chance for Nigel, but there's no chance for my Greens either. We both lose. I wanted to end it there. A bit sarcastic, but this is actually serious, so I'll continue to one more point. In simplest terms, the irony of our system is that the more choices of political parties you have, the less likely you are to be well represented. Here's the most extreme example, but in our current system is entirely possible. In this election, any party could theoretically get first past the post with just 3,780,734 votes. That is, if everybody went out to vote, a party could win the House and therefore total control with just 8% of the electorate. They could win every single seat in the House, even if 83% of people didn't vote for them. In some local seats, you need only convince 12% of the people to vote for you. And if you manage it, if the votes are spread out evenly amongst the rest, you can ignore 88% of those who wanted someone else to speak for them in government.